I want to, before I really go into it, I want to thank the great organizers of this wonderful conference and for actually allowing this, the theme of today, that's the title of the keynote of today, which is Decolonizing the Curriculum and Implementing Relevant Education. It's not just implementing education of whatever type in Africa, but relevant education in Africa using e-learning. And the e-learning specialist group was established in 2008, and with the help of Margaret, Jeff, Peter, yourself, Eli Georgiadu, and so many other different people, even our partners from the US, we have been able to achieve quite a lot. And this year we are celebrating the 26th anniversary of the Inspire International Conference. And I think I'm delighted, and I really want to thank the committee, especially the conference director, for really making sure that this conference has become a huge success, the second of its kind during the time of the COVID-19 pandemic. So for today, really, just to touch on the outline, I will try not to be too, I always try to rule my heart with my head. I'm not ruling the head with the heart. That is talking about passion, because this is really a topic after my own heart. And it is something, where I've passed the half-century line in terms of age, and I see that for the past how many years of my life, no day has passed, no single day has passed on, in this life that there has not been any war on the African continent, not one single day. And yet that continent is blessed with so many different things. That continent is home to so many communities that speak different languages all over the world, in fact, thousands of languages, and yet is home to a lot of resources. Yet there is no progress. Today in the whole world, it is the poorest continent in the world, and yet is the second largest. So anyway, just as a quick outline for my presentation, I hope to start with the introduction. We'll talk about the origin and the meaning of the topic, really, and then we'll look at Africa itself and give you a snapshot of current status and the needs that are still extant in that particular continent. Then we'll go on to talk about the education and global development, the importance of education for global development. And then we'll also look at the education curriculum. And please, I want to now really distinguish, I want us to distinguish between the two terms here. One is education and one is schooling. I want us to distinguish between the two. And so we'll be looking at decolonized and the decolonized curriculum, because before say, how will I put it? Before even the slave drivers or before the continent was colonized, there exists some form of education. I know, so that education is the traditional African education, and then that education was colonized. But now there exists some kind of education in the country, which everybody agrees is colonized education. So we want to decolonize it, and we'll look at the problems and the impact that such a process or the outcome could actually lead to. Then we'll look at education in Africa, the philosophy, the structure, and the mode of delivery, and going a little bit to talk about the culture and the history. So most Africans really are actually living without knowing their history, because the history that exists in Africa is the history that has been written and presented to that particular continent. But Africans, up until now, I think there's a particular country, the most populous country in Africa, which until 2 years ago was never allowed to teach history in its school. Okay, so you can imagine the impact of that. So look at emerging economic status in the world, the role of the UN and advanced countries' role. We now talk about the Sustainable Development Goals and influence on life and business. Then we'll proceed to talk about the technology, information, communication, computing, and the impact on society. And then we'll specifically want to touch on two things there. We'll look at the transition from being a closed continent or a closed community, a closed society, to now being an open society. A lot of things happening in Africa now is no longer closed, it's open. So if there's a takeover due to a coup or whatever in any part of the country, within seconds, everybody gets to hear about it. If there are killings like what was going on in Sudan, or what is currently going on in so many parts of even in Nigeria, Boko Haram and so on and so forth, nobody can hide anything anymore because of the current technology. Then we also talk about access on the move to people and resources outside Africa, the kind of influence we're able to have. We as members of the e-learning specialist group, we know how much we've actually influenced a lot of activities in Africa, although I know they are slow in responding. And that may be due, most part, to the type of technology that exists in the continent itself. Right? There is intermittent access to the internet, intermittent access to communication tools. Then we'll look at the issues of sustainability, development, and rebooting the future for Africa. Then also we'll touch on the technology in education and curriculum decolonization, and the way we now look at the future and the use of mixed reality and the way we perceive the future today. And then penultimately, we'll look at the society of the future, transcending space, time, and languages. And then hopefully we'll draw some few conclusions and examine some points for as we go forward. That's the future. For the introduction, really, just to cast our minds back, decolonizing the curriculum really is as a result of a movement that started some 20 years ago, okay? And that movement was really aimed at ensuring that knowledge and practices of indigenous people were represented in education curriculum of post-colonial countries. For example, I know in my days in the primary school, I didn't know anything about my local king or anything. Rather, I learned about the wars in America. I learned about what was going on in Brazil. I learned about the slave things, in the Caribbean, but I was never really taught anything about my own history, about my own people, about our own kingdoms. There are 35 kingdoms in Edo State, and yet none of these. And the Oba of Benin, that 5,000 years ago, was actually welcoming people from all over the world. Nobody said that, nobody taught us anything about it. It's only 2016 here when I got to Nigeria and entered the Oba's palace that there was a section where they were introducing us to so many things, and it's mind-blowing what you could be really exposed to. So this movement wanted the inclusion of local knowledge and practices into what is actually being taught. And really, this was reignited some years ago in South Africa with the Rhodes Must Fall movement by students demanding the placement of local knowledge on equal footing with curriculum from outside. And let us not forget that in South Africa today, there are 11 recognized languages. And I have we have a family there, and the youngster there, besides knowing English, is a perfect Afrikaans speaker. I am surprised. I really am surprised. In the UK, this has been championed by the National Union of Students, who asked the question, why is my curriculum white? And although arts and humanities disciplines are perceived as most requiring this, we have seen changes filtering into other disciplines, including computing and so on and so forth. Decolonizing the curriculum provides really, what I want to say here, it provides all subject opportunities to reconsider teaching matter. For example, in computing, really, nothing stops us from looking at programming, using different kind of programs to do language translation, or to look at writing different history, or looking at geography, representation of different food plants and nutrition, or cooking, or even sports, and so many other different things. Okay. The Africa and natural resources. Just a point to make that Africa is home to a lot of sources of natural energy, such as solar, the wind, the waves, geothermal, oil, and so on and so forth, and other forms of natural mineral resources as well. Despite having this access, having access of being home to most of these here, the wealth of energy sources, the continent as a whole is still referred to as the dark continent, with little or virtually not enough power for electricity, water, communication, and other infrastructures necessary for economic development and sustained growth. And the next slide here shows you from the top, as you fly into Africa, you look at anyway the satellite image of all the continents that there are, and the bright spots are where you find lights, electricity, lights being beamed. And you can look at that entire continent called Africa, the second largest in the world, virtually no sign of electricity there. And you just wonder why. But that underpins that particular statement that Africa is a dark continent. It's not just that it is made up of black people, but it's just that really everything about it is dark. Some people may perceive it from the, or from give it a wrong interpretation by saying, okay, everything about it is bad, is black, and this and this. But the way we really look at it is, if you want to consider it well, is it is a dark continent in that we haven't really shined light on it to discover the wealth that is hidden in it. And now is the time for us to shine light on it and be able to explore and exploit whatever is there for the benefit of not just the Africans, but for the benefit of the world. Because that is like it's like a container of a lot of rich resources that is for the benefit of everybody in the world. It's not just for the Africans. And one thing I know, even as an African, Africans never think or act selfishly. You know, we were brought up to realize that we should treat all our strangers as if they are angels in disguise. Anybody wanting to come and visit you is coming to visit you out of interest. They believe you have something to offer to them, and you don't selfishly hide what you have to offer to them. And also, the way we are brought up is all of us human beings, we are balls of light, and a light does not shine for itself, but a light shines for others to see. And the very minute you begin to act selfishly, you are thinking of shining for yourself, and that defeats the purpose of you being a light in the world. So now looking at infrastructure and data centers, really, most IT infrastructure equipments are used by entrepreneurs and firms in Africa appear to be power hungry. The infrastructure in most data centers include the likes of the chillers, the power supplies, and so on and so forth, all of which requires electricity to function. Now we look at the energy use and greening issues. Most developing countries, including Nigeria, they haven't got a well-established e-waste management system for recycling of obsolete electrical and electronics products. So you find these things being dumped everywhere. The volume of used electronics is large and growing, and we know the likes of Nigeria, South Africa, and so many, Namibia, Kenya, Ghana. You name all of them. These are countries that heavily import a lot of electronic gears into their countries, but there is no proper way of recycling this waste or even repairing or using them in a way. So it's like a dumping ground. And these are some of the few slides of some of the pictures that we're taking that you will find in Africa. Dilapidated building, not maintained at all. You look at dump grounds, and these are health hazards actually. Okay, plastics everywhere. Where today in Europe, in the UK, and in advanced countries in America, we are now talking about plastic pollution and trying to get rid of it, proper recycling methods. In Africa, these things are just like strange words. No government is actually taking recycling serious. No government is looking at the issue about pollution and taking it at that high governmental level to begin to work for the benefit of its own people. And we know pollution affects all health, really, in every way. And here we have youngsters. These are young, healthy children that are actually, they are in the midst of waste. What are they looking for? They are looking for something natural. There's that natural instinct to recycle, to do things, okay? Yet the health of these people is not really being considered by the country. And here you have dead animals, all over the place, okay? And you have an individual there harvesting what you and I might call meat from it, okay? Here, when an animal dies on its own, you consider it, health hazard, and you call on NSPCC, that's the right charity to come and help dispose of the body properly, and tests are carried out to make sure that no disease is being transferred to anybody. But here you have somebody who is attending to it. And then also drought is the thing that affects the continent very seriously. We have hardworking farmers who go to plant things, and a natural disaster strikes, and a whole vast land, of crops destroyed and nothing else. And then today, in advanced countries, everybody, in fact, all over the world, we talk about climate change, and it's affecting that continent as well. But very little mention is made about how the role that continent has to play, but rather it's a question of how we will fit in, and how we overcome things, and thoughts about incorporating or involving the thinking machines of this continent in our development process is actually is never really considered. We hope they will catch up. The continent will catch up with us, or we'll try and be kind to them. To either spoon feed them or help them through one aid or another. Now, the energy demand, here is a quick chart about the energy demand as we go forward. The global energy demand that we see increasing by 1/3 from 2010 to 2035, with China and India accounting for more than 50% of the growth in energy demand. The world energy sources, we just quickly take a look at it. The sources of energy comes from natural gas, 23%, crude oil, 33%, the coal, 27%, and all the others, with nuclear, hydro, and geothermal on all the others contributing less. Now we look at where the world gets its electricity from, because we want the place to sort of light up. We have hydro is 16%, natural gas 21%, coal 41%, nuclear 14%, and so on and so forth. Now, talking about education and global development, education is crucial. Education is important. It's one of the very strong elements that is necessary for any community development or even for an individual. That is why we say education is the key to success, whether for an individual or even for a community or the society at large. So in order to paint this picture well, I have a clip here about education and national development of Singapore, which I will just quickly play.
With tears in her eyes, she said, "Every country deserves this. A future is the best gift we can give our kids." These were my wife's words when she was celebrating Singapore's National Day this year. This was her emotion after seeing less fortunate countries struggle with problems Singapore once had. The Singapore we know today wasn't always like this. Back in the 60s, there was racial tension that led to many deaths and hundreds of injuries. In the same period, Singapore became independent from Malaysia and had to decide its own fate. The economy wasn't stable, no natural resources, and many people had no jobs, housing, or formal education. Without solving these problems, it is more difficult for a nation to progress. So, how did Singapore do it? Education. Singapore focused on making an educated nation. 20% of the country's budget is spent on education. This is to keep it universal, practical, and relevant to the market needs. English was made the official language for teaching to suit children from all races. Mother tongue was still preserved and taught in schools. Primary education was made compulsory, and by this year, 97.5% of Singaporeans are educated. Education, education, it can't be stressed enough. An educated nation can communicate, socialize, and make better choices for themselves and their country. Housing. To solve the housing problem, the government launched a public housing program. Housing is generally expensive in Singapore due to the lack of land. However, with government subsidy and payment options, majority of Singaporeans can afford to own a shelter. Housing system also forced people of different races to live together. We are Singaporean Arabs, our neighbors are Chinese, Malay, and Indians. New economy. Upon independence, Singapore put together a plan to become a center for manufacturing and service industry. Government built industrial estates to make it a center for businesses. The service industry grew and attracted other investments that made the economy stronger and created more jobs for the people. Singapore today is home to one of the largest and busiest shipping ports in the world. It is the 4th richest country despite its small size and lack of resources. If you think your country is poor because you have no resources, remember Singapore. If you think your country is unstable because you have different ethnic and religious groups, remember Singapore. If there is one thing we can learn from Singapore, it is that the most valuable natural resource for a country is its people. God bless.
Thank you. Okay. So now, now that leads me to ask the next question. The school system. The school system that exists in Africa, is it outdated? Okay. What is the curriculum being implemented? We have different, we have a lot of universities spread throughout Africa. Some are teaching engineering, aeronautical engineering, civil engineering, mechanical engineering, automotive engineering, and so on and so forth. And yet, as big as the continent is, not a single car is produced in the country. The pilots, or even the various aeronautical engineers we have, some people will actually graduate without having seen the engine of an aeroplane. And I just wonder, what sort of curriculum is this? And yet they are taught everything about the aeroplane. They are taught everything about the car, okay? And yet the primary economy of most African communities depends on agriculture, and yet they are not really being taught agriculture. Mechanized farming is still not, it's really not widespread throughout Africa. One of the countries that had that was Zimbabwe, but because of whatever happened in Zimbabwe, everything was taken away and dispersed. And so no progress everywhere. So what is the curriculum being implemented? We look at colonial curriculum, the African case study, or the colonized curriculum that look at inclusive curriculum. Now, first of all, just to clarify the term educational curriculum, that's the education curriculum. The curriculum is really a framework for distribution of knowledge and should be aligned with notions of diversity and accuracy to reflect the needs of the people, the needs of the society, the needs of the community. Decolonizing the curriculum and delivering informed curriculum by other pedagogical practices from around the world is the key to achieving this. Through comparative studies, through people opening their eyes to see how they are different or how they are similar to other people, how a person from one culture differs from another culture, how a particular practice in a community differs from another community, and how both can be brought together, to make the world a better place. So is the school system outdated? And for that, really, I have another clip for you here.
The school system here, I'm not sure about America, but it's outdated.
It's outdated globally.
It's outdated globally.
The internet made it outdated because information is a commodity and the school system was built on memorization of information. Why do I have to do any math? I have a calculator on my iPhone that can give you any math. Yeah. I don't need to know anything. I can ask Siri and Alexa in 2 seconds, they'll give me the answer. Who cares about the periodic table when I can tell you what, it's so uncomfortably outdated globally because it's predicated on memorization of information in a world where we have information at our fingertip within a second for zero cost. The whole thing's dead.
How do we fix it?
It's the parents' responsibility. It's the parents' responsibility to not buy into the self-esteem wrapped up in your child going to a top university. We don't need to boil the ocean. Parents need to make sure their kids are happy. If we all collectively actually gave a crap about the happiness of our children, it would fix itself. Unfortunately, we care more about the judgment of our contemporaries about what our children are accomplishing more than caring about our children. This is an issue of modern day parenting and insecurity and keeping up with the Joneses, not a school system problem.
Caring what other people think.
It is the devastation of our society.
Yeah, because so many people watching this will be like, no, you need a university degree. You need that to fall back on.
Fall back on what?
Yeah.
Every company's not requiring a degree to get hired anyway. The greatest companies in the world, Amazon, Google, are no longer requiring a degree anyway. So what are you falling back on? Now, that's like saying you need to keep a horse on hand in case the car doesn't work. It's ludicrous.
It is ludicrous.
It is ludicrous.
Yeah.
And it's completely predicated on the framework that the parent grew up with, and more importantly, the judgment that their parents are putting on them, or how they want to keep up with everybody else. Because the people that they eat dinner with at the country club on Sunday night, their daughter's going to the big university, and it's just ludicrous. It is sad. I'm a byproduct of parents that were strong enough to not care about what other people thought, which is why I'm happy. And I would like to use what the gift my parents gave to me as something that I communicate to the world, hopefully inspiring one parent to give that gift to their child.
Yeah, what do you say to that entrepreneur, that young entrepreneur at school, hating school, wanting to leave school, but has to stay at school? What do you say to them?
Enjoy the vacation, because you're gonna work the rest of your life. 2, don't be a hypocrite. If you're such a tough guy or gal, stop taking mommy and daddy's money. If you're such an entrepreneur, go buy your own iPhone. Start practicing now. The quicker a child gets off a parent's payroll, the more likely they will be happy in life.
Okay, so now also I haven't dealt with that. I haven't heard what Guy has to say here. We look at curriculum in practice, the African case study interview, and we speak to a typical African here and the current thinking.
They realized that if we take away Africans from practice and move them to theory, we will be creating a labor force for ourselves. So they brought a school system which did not promote thinking, but promoted remembering.
Say that again.
They brought a school system which did not promote thinking, but promoted remembering, for the sake of creating good employees who don't think but can remember. Okay?
Right.
So they brought a school system where you learnt useless things. Homo habilis. Who was Shaka's mother? What is the longest river in Africa?
Yeah.
Tell me, what is the use of that rubbish? Okay? So you went into school and you were studying how many times Muslims pray per day.
Yep.
You wake up at night to study how many times Muslims pray per day. So you memorize photosynthesis. You memorize how many teeth a dog has. You memorize everything. And at the end of the day, what did they produce? They produced someone who was a container of useless knowledge. A container of useless knowledge.
Right.
That is why today we have doctors who have been independent for 55 years. Have you heard that there are vaccines being made by Zambian doctors? So you walk out of medical school as someone who knows when to give Panadol, how to take temperature. You are a doctor who is a Panadol distributor. And it's not your fault, the education system. Okay? You have professors in this country, in the School of Forestry at Copperbelt University.
Yep.
We have lived with Mukula tree since God created the world. All they know is how to label the parts of the tree. They don't know the value of the tree.
Yeah.
Okay?
Yep.
So when this mission succeeded, then they came to set up industries. And when they set up industries, who was the laborer? The graduate from the School of Remembering. Okay. Someone who would remember how to dig, where to dig. Someone who would remember how to cut a tree and how many pieces. Someone who would remember. And they rewarded you with a bribe called a salary, and we became comfortable.
Right.
So when they come into Africa, what are they coming to do? They are coming to reap your resources, and you are a means of production. So this is what made Africa poor.
Okay, you can begin to see the thinking of the African philosophers, and these are people now who are informing the current governments in Africa. And I know the whole world over, there's the cry out to say Africans are allowing the Chinese and so many other different people in. But quickly, we look at the colonial curriculum. The curriculum really is characterized by its unrepresentative, inaccessible, and privileged nature. And we talk about the top class and the low class people. there are problems associated with it. Actually, it's a kind of curriculum that is exclusionary and depreciatory tendencies, failures to provide the truthful knowledge about something. Also, it discourages many others from engagement with what is on offer through carefully devised means. Now we look at the problems that exist there. It's wrought with a lot of psychological, education, and societal ramifications that can be transformed beyond the academic environment. And I want to really look at or let it be known that the knowledge produced and access in education imparts the way in which students go on to successfully dismantle or uphold, legitimize or reject toxic social and political practices. For a person that is properly educated, that person will not grow up to become a corrupt politician. The person that is properly educated will not grow up to disrespect others that they come across. A person that is properly educated will not grow up to think of exploiting, others, or being bad to society. Rather, a properly educated person cares for themselves as well as anyone and everyone around them and means well for them. And that leads me on to swiftly talk about the decolonized curriculum. The decolonized, which I also refer to as inclusive curriculum here, is it considers, amongst others, the broader diversity of all characteristics such as ethnicity, race, the people you are trying, what is it you are trying to impact through the curriculum? Are you taking into consideration the ethnic provision of this knowledge that you've created, that you're about to impact? You look at the race, although there is the strong feeling there is only but one human race in the world, but today everybody agrees that there are different races. Well, you can call it the black race, the green race, the brown race, the white race, and all of them. But there are some people that are pushing for the recognition of one single human race, that everybody can fight for the survival and the sustenance of everybody in that one single race. So we talk about the inclusive curriculum framework that creates an accessible curriculum, enables all students to see themselves and their backgrounds reflected in the curriculum. And also the inclusive curriculum is one that equips students or the learners with the skills to positively work in a global and diverse world. Like I know of some students that came to one of the universities where I worked before, and they said, oh, that everything that they learn, they know, but they couldn't relate it back to their own country. So the results of having a decolonized curriculum is or the benefits is that it will help improve the experience, the skills, and attainment of all students, irrespective of background, that are able to participate fully and achieve learning targets at equal rates. Also, a decolonized curriculum reflects the cultural and social backgrounds of all the learners, of all the students, and help everyone really with access to shared knowledge, improve reflective practice, and collaborative learning, which we know is the best form of learning. Certain initiatives are being introduced throughout the universities in the UK, as I know today, such as the setup of BAME staff network. But I think following, at my university, at Ulster University, on the 17th of November last year, we launched the BAME network at Ulster. And BAME really stands for the Black, Asian, and Minority Ethnic Network. So it was launched in November, and this network is actually doing a lot and is fully engaged with the four faculties we have in the university to try and overhaul the kind of curriculum that is being taught for the various subjects. Also, another thing that the BAME community is trying to strive for is a representation of the BAME staff and students at all levels in the university, whether it's admin for the admin sector or even the academic sector as well. The world today in Africa, there is acknowledgement all over the world about success and achievement of personalities, celebrities, and so on and so forth. Now, I just want to remind ourselves that this year, 2021, marks the beginning of the third decade of this 21st century. Technology, and especially e-learning, as a tool, has actually helped in no small measure to meet challenges brought about by unforeseen circumstances both natural and man-made disasters, as well as the current global health, that's the COVID-19 pandemic that we are going through. I just imagine the world today without e-learning or without the internet, without the ability to communicate. Even today, here I am in the comfort of my own home, giving you this keynote. If it was 5 years ago, people would say, it's impossible. But today, e-learning and the advancing technology has made that possible. We now live in an era of globalization. The world is no longer that big bad world. The world is now actually a global village. The world has been made small and easy to see, to hear, communicate, and interact. The mobile phone and the internet makes us all equal players on the global stage. However, there is the big challenge about the digital divide, and I'm glad to see that our e-learning specialist group, we do take that seriously. And ever since 2008, we've been sending out that message to everybody about the digital divide, and efforts are being made left, right, and center to see how this great divide can be bridged in a way. We'll talk about the digital literates, digital natives, and so on, and those who do not really want to get using technology. We have a choice in this here to be either passive or active in life, or in engaging with this process here. We either stand aside and watch, or take part actively, join in and play a role. But there are some key questions here that I really want to ask. What is education? What is culture? And what is technology? As a people of African descent in Northern Ireland, I gave a short talk to them not too long ago. We have been able to look at where we have come from. For me, history is important, and I think it is key. If you do not know your history, or if you do not know the history of what you are trying to know, you can never know that thing, okay? So what the role and potential of education and technology, especially computing and IT, is in society, we need to also understand that. And you can really begin to gain proper understanding when you understand the history about it. So the transition today, we witnessed about Africa, the transition from being closed to being open, and also that today in Africa, there is real access to technology, but the thing is about maintaining, sustaining such access. So how is the future being rebooted, and what makes for sustainable development while ensuring viable continuing personal and professional development as well? So quickly to define what education, culture, and technology is, let us just a little bit clarify the term. Education really is a systemic training and instruction, especially of the young in school or in college, and so on and so forth. You can also at home. I never stop telling my students in class, because many of them do remark that, oh, James, the way you teach us is quite different. You make whatever you are teaching us so real, and you draw examples even from our parents, even though you haven't seen our parents. You make us think of our home, and so on and so forth. But how does this engineering aspect touch about that? But you've made me realize that this engineering subject I'm studying is so relevant. The way I'm doing it is quite different from the way we were taught during A levels or even the past years. And I tell them, well, that is because of the way I was brought up. We have education at home, but all education starts at home. And just as Guy stated a short while ago in the video clip, it is important that we lay that solid foundation for education at home. Teach the child to value itself, to value him or herself. Teach the child to value the home. Teach the child to value the parents, and teach the child to respect others that they come across. And then when the child exits the home education system and goes into the school, the child is able to respect the teacher, is able to respect the fellow students, is able to respect the school environment and the wider community. Also, knowledge and abilities. Education is used to describe the knowledge and abilities, the development of character and mental power resulting from such training. And we distinguish between education and schooling. A school can give you a certificate. At the end of schooling, you have a certificate, okay, that what the school went out to teach you, they've achieved their aim. But education is a qualification for life that you get. You're able to survive under any condition at all in life that is thrown at you if you have the proper education, okay. The culture then is the advanced development of human powers, the development of the body, the mind, and the spirit by training and experience, okay? And we look at evidence of intellectual development, such as the arts and the science in human society, the state of intellectual development among the people, particular from an intellectual development. It could be used to describe a culture. And also culture could be used to describe all the arts, the beliefs, the social institutions, and anything that help to characterize a community, a race, or a society. We'll talk about culture when we talk about cultivating a culture, the rearing of bees and so on and so forth. We need to be able to distinguish between them, or even like in biology or in medicine, the growth of bacteria, the cell culture and so on and so forth. But we need to be able to distinguish between them all. Okay. Technology, on the other hand, is the study, the mastery and utilization of manufacturing and industrial methods, the systematic application of knowledge to practical tasks in industries, at work or at home. Now, Africa, quickly, having clarified those, we look at Africa. Africa is the world's second largest and second most populous continent after Asia. About almost 30 million kilometers squared. That's 11.7 million square miles, including adjacent lands. That's the area it covers. It covers 6% of the Earth's total surface area and 20% of the total land area. Africa covers 1/5 of the entire world landed area. With about 1 billion plus people, 1.3 if we wanted to be precise, in 54 countries, it accounts for about 14.7% of the world's human population. Africa is a resource-rich continent, but all its countries are still classified today as developing nations or emerging economies. Putting it in context, Africa is bigger than the USA as a country, Canada as a country, and India as a country, all three combined in terms of land or space. The African nations and people, you can see itself, 54 countries in all, 1.3 billion. The important features of Africa, people talk about the Mount Kilimanjaro. People also talk about being the hottest, being home to the hottest desert, the Sahara Desert, and also the Nile, the longest river in the world as well. The spoken languages, thousands and thousands of languages are spoken in Africa. Indigenous 800 languages exist in Africa. Of this, really, about 380 of them exist in one country called Nigeria. Okay, it's amazing. The percentage of world natural resources, just to put things in context and just to clarify things, Africa is home to 60% arable land, 90% raw material reserve, 40% gold reserve, 33% diamond reserve, 95% platinum reserve. But this is besides having manganese, iron, and so on and so forth. Yet Africa is seen as and labeled as the poorest continent in the world. Slavery and Africans in Northern Ireland, there is only one place I know, having studied the history intensely, that rejected getting involved in the slave trade, and that place was Belfast. Okay, even though Ireland was, slavery is a dehumanizing endeavor, but Ireland did, UK and all the other, America and everywhere else, but only Belfast refused, to get involved in slavery. Colonialism and groups in society, a minority group, what it is a group that has been defined to be a minority group. Okay, being superior in numbers does not guarantee a group has control over its identity, over its destiny, and ensure majority status. As we see today, there's nowhere to hide anywhere in the world. Okay, even though we want to say Africa is poor and it should remain poor, it cannot really be isolated, because we have some people that will take the dinghy boats and risk coming here, and because we have the protection of the UNHCR, you can't do anything to them when they turn up on our shores as refugees. We must know that. And an African is an African from the day they were born till the day they die. And a British is a British from the day they were born till the day they die. But the British, the good hearts they had, in them, will always also be reflected in the way they accept that African to be an African, and actually want to fight for the betterment of the whole world too. So the ranking groups, there are 5 characteristics for group ranking is stated there. But the types of groups that there are, we have the racial groups, we have the ethnic groups, we also have the religious groups, and the gender groups as well. And there are other different subordinate groups that could be created, and groups by age. Some people say, oh, this is the old people's group, or the youth, and so on and so forth. Then you ask the question, does race matter? Does race actually matter? Biological school of thought and the meaning of race then is the absence of pure races. For example, we have intermarriages and so on and so forth. Are you going to classify these people as black or as white, or what is it? What future are you creating for them? Intelligence tests have been created to try and look into most of this here. The African history, racism, and education. Because when we talk about racism, sometimes some people fail to realize that this thing is really out there for us to see. What is African history? I'll just play this here for just to say very, very slowly what it is. Oh, I don't know why it has. This has just gone. Excuse me for a second here. Just for 1 second. I'm sorry about this. Just never expected it would be like that. Say the site cannot be reached. I don't know why. Just excuse me for 1 second, please. And okay. Okay.
The conqueror writes history. They came, they conquered, and they wrote. Now you don't expect people who came to invade us to write the truth about us. They will always write negative things about us. And they have to do that because they have to justify their invasion. We don't write our history. It has always been handed down to us orally by our elders. Of course, the white man came and he writes history. In fact, you don't know anything about any place until the white man gets there. Until the white man comes to any place, nothing lives. It's only when he comes and says, "Boof, I've discovered you, now you exist," which is ridiculous.
Okay. So, the social construction of race, really, if I go on, that race is most important, okay, because of the social meaning people have attached to it. Race is a social construct, is a classification of racial classifications could be seen as a function of how people define, label, categorize themselves and others in a particular group. Racism then is the feeling that certain groups or races are inherently superior or inferior to others. The pluralist perspective implies mutual respect between diverse groups. And we talk about assimilation and pluralism that we know are significant for racial ethnic oppression in the US today. The same could be said to be the case for other countries in the world. And this had led to the buildup of resistance and the call for change. The dominant group defined the terms by which all members of the society operate. The resistance is seen, okay, in efforts by racial and ethnic groups to maintain their identity through newspapers, form organizations, and so on and so forth. And there are so many aspects, so many efforts being put in by the people to address and make sure that there is a positive change. Now, education and development, it has serious role to play, just as I stated in the case of Singapore, as we looked at before. The higher education institution, as I say, they are knowledge factories. Universities are knowledge factories. These are institutions, establishment where knowledge are sort of created. Education and training, it is a place where you have the core actors for new knowledge creation, and where education and training of new experts actually take place. And that is why there is the investment in research and the building of a social capital, human connections and interactions, and actually affect the cultural life and enrich the quality of society. Here is a proportion of the higher education institution exams and population by various countries, and you can see the absence of Africa there. There's the influence today of internet on cognition, on culture, and education. And much of these I have actually allowed to be detailed, that you can see the true meaning here. The internet and e-learning continues to affect and impact seriously on all aspects of our lives today. We'll talk about automation, the conceptual aid, the Web 2, and the human interaction management and filters that exist. And then just look at the Bloom's taxonomy of education, where we distinguish between the cognitive domain of the learner, the affective domain, and the psychomotor domain. There you are looking at the knowledge, the attitudes, and the skills being acquired there, and look at how they are related to the data, the information, and the knowledge. Then here we look at, again, I don't want to go too much into the details. You look at relating the data, trying to remember the data, information. If you glean the information, it shows you have a better understanding about it. And then the knowledge, if you to show that you have knowledge about something, you're able to apply it, analyze it, evaluate, and create something from it. Then distribution of priorities, I think, is important. And again, the details there are shown there, given the change in the cognitive and working skill demands, that looks at learning the objectives, and does the objectives need to change all domains, and then looking at the three specific domains as well. The current perceptions and relevance here to the needs of the people. What is the school curriculum? How does it affect what education has to offer? Again, there is a clip here which I wouldn't want to play for just considering the time. There is an aspect of my talk today that I want to touch on, which is sustainability and development. That a functioning society and business depends on a series of complex infrastructure networks, okay, providing our cities, our towns, our villages with clean water, transport, energy, and capacity to trade efficiently. Effective economic recovery and sustainable development will also depend on extending infrastructure to those in the world who have been left behind in the past 50 years or so, and who will be exposed as an even greater threat in the next 50 years, in the words of Paul Jowett, okay? There are issues of importance here: the poverty, climate change, and the family. Also, I think just to note, we are slowly slipping to an environmental catastrophe. And with 1 billion without access to clean, safe water, 1.6 billion without electricity, 2.5 billion without safe sanitation, 1 billion without communication services, telephone, 1 billion without all-weather roads. We are really heading for a collision with what we do not know. The population and urbanization is another thing, okay, that I want to draw your attention to. The shadows of poverty, they are there, which actually results in increased, there's a more population being outreach with the official economy, marginalized, lack of trust between institutions, the need to rebuild trust, partnership vital, and there is also the need for land reform. And this actually calls for developing and rebooting the future. We need to prepare to engage with the future and we need to, the future that we've worked for. We only reap what you sow, okay? We are never free and secure until those around us are free and secure. The people of the world cannot be free until Africa and the rest of the poor nations in the world are free. There is hope. The future is bright, and it's bright for everybody. Education is a fundamental human right. It's a process, provides the firm ground on which to stand and claim the freedom, working with one another to serve humanity and the world. We must stop competing with one another, but go out of our way to support each other, both here and at home. We must unlearn the bad habits we have been taught and learn and practice the good habits of helping one another. A light exists and radiates or shines, not for itself, but for all others to see and move around. Humans are the light of the world. Education is the vehicle and e-learning the fuel. The future of Africa in the world is a promising one, a great and a bright future. So reaching out to Africa, we look at the prerequisite for development, reasonable governance structures, a functioning civil society, an effective local economy, freedom from persecution, conflict, and corruption. Access to energy, we've got to work for it. Access to water, we've got to try and secure it. Do we still have the will? Yes, we do. Here we are today at Inspire 2021 conference, already planning for next year's Inspire conference, involving and seeing presentations from all over the world. Look at the wonderful presentations from yesterday, looking at gamification and different aspects of computing the resources and the tools available to us. Look at, today we are talking about Africa. Tomorrow it could be Brazil. It could be in any other part of the world. We do certainly have the will. The education curriculum and the contents, they do matter. And it's what we should really be focusing on. Making poverty history, we've seen the celebration before, and we can plan for it. We have to rise and do something about it. It's not keep quiet. Hajinda, in his keynote address yesterday, says something about ethical practice. And here it is being reinforced by Bishop Desmond Tutu, who says, if you are neutral in situations of injustice, you have chosen the side of the oppressor. Now, looking at disparities, inequality, environment, and so on and so forth, these do exist within communities, within countries, and so on. The state we are in, we are now in COVID-19 pandemic era, and we talk about climate change, and a devastated global economic recession is hitting us too. The challenges of 21st century, there are many, and they've just been listed here. What can you see in this picture here? Is a trader here who is happily setting up her store. Can you see the clean fruits? So clean, but can you see the environment? May appear dirty, but the trader is not carrying placard. The trader is not crying, but is happily going about the business of setting up. Can you see and read the future of the faces on these children? There are many here. There is the one that is looking straight ahead. There is one that is smiling and seeing what is right in front of her. There is the one to your left here that is playing with the lips clenched to say, oh, is it going to be as tough as this here? And you can see the one that is relaxed, smiling and looking on. There are others looking away as well. What can you really see in that picture here? There are 4 headline issues here on the global agenda here. We have education, training, and mobilizing the youth, appropriate structures in the industry, appropriate equitable standards, high level of issues. The energy of the youth have got to be tapped into and used for the benefit of everybody, really. The youths want to be involved, have got a role for them to play. They have values, they are committed. These are the digital natives. What are we using them for? The university students, the college students, and so on and so forth. We have to focus on building the engineering capacity in Africa, educational, professional, organizational, at all levels. Sustainable development and the education process, the content. We've got to look at the content, decolonized content, and not shoving more materials, at the learners. The process, proper process have got to be put in there. Now, the problems facing emerging economies, they are many and varied as well, and I've listed about 11 of them here. The impact of ICT in developed countries, is clearly there for us to see, to appreciate, and seriously look into how we can put them to use for the betterment of the society at large. The constraints facing ICT as well is there, and I've stated there, lack of sustainability, proper policies and strategies, high cost of technology, and so on and so forth. The collaboration between education and business and society have got to be fostered. It's got to be supported at all levels. The suggestions and skills development of the future workforce. We suggest that institutions, business, and voluntary organizations should get involved in this process, and globalization and life of the 21st century dictate that a variety of skills is required for any given work, such as the use of computer-mediated communication tools and associated techniques, as well as the ability to apply a combination of traditional processes in the workplace. The issues of culture, practices, and the challenges.
James, you have about 5 minutes remaining.
Thank you, yes. So there are so many factors that are important ingredients in learning. Some of these include the language, the student's relationship to the dominant culture and the motivational state of the learner, the structuring of knowledge, and so on and so forth. There are instances where the culture of learning may differ. The problem of the problems of defining the difference remains crucial and vital to be resolved. Discount not the culture and traditional education. So here, I have a clip here just to show. Oh, okay. Don't worry. I'll quickly go now. Yeah, that's the Falcon. Yeah. Thank you. So I think now if I go on to this here. So we have to, we talk about innovation, decolonizing the curriculum. We are calling for cutting the branch here now, cut the branch so that the bird can fly. So education and culture and globalization provides us the opportunity to do just that. Technology in education and decolonization, is just now to throw us into the future to look at what we're actually doing here. The Math Reality Lab, the web link is there, but the society of the future is no longer restricted to space. It's no longer location dependent, and this is what e-learning really stands for. So the next clip is really to show you how you sitting here or sitting in your own room can
James,
speak my language or speak any other language.
Clips. You are just about at the end of your time now.
Exactly. So just within a minute or so, I think I have just two or three more slides just to go. And I'll just quickly. So here is how current technology is actually cutting Or is it here? Yeah. So the technology of the future, the life and living is about struggles and focus on doing the right thing all the time. Okay. For all you want to be and all you want to do, you never give up. So I have this here just to look into the future.
Here in Las Vegas to present to you. Now, I get invited to do keynotes across the globe. And while it's easy for me to be here in Las Vegas, it isn't always easy for me to travel across the world. And even when I do, I can't always speak the local language. Well, what if neither language nor distance mattered for me to deliver a fantastic keynote? What if technology could help me be anywhere I needed to be and speak any language I wanted? Well, it can. We are bringing together the power of mixed reality and Azure AI services to create a truly game-changing experience. What you're about to see is an exact hologram of me wearing the same outfit that we recently captured at a mixed reality studio. And I don't speak Japanese, but what if I wanted to deliver my keynote in Japanese? Using Azure AI technology, I can translate my English into Japanese and train it to sound exactly like me, the same voice tones, those same inflections. Now, we brought this together, my hologram and Azure AI, to show you what's possible. So first, I'm going to put on my HoloLens 2 here, and then we'll flip in the room to the special camera so you can see exactly what I'm seeing. Let's get started. First, let me introduce you to Mini-Me. There she is, my perfect holograph. And thanks to the power of HoloLens 2, she just floats right with me. I'm literally holding my hologram, so natural. Now she's a little small to do a keynote. So let's get her up so she can do full-size Japanese keynote. Render keynote.
ホログラムになることには本当に驚くべきことがあります。私たちは最新の複合現実キャプチャ技術を使用し、私のホログラムを作成しています。実在の人物をホログラムとして見たことがあるかもしれませんが、私が実際に日本語を話しているのが新しいのです。私は日本語を話しませんが、私の声とホログラムは完璧な日本語で話しています。これはニューラルテキスト読み上げと呼ばれる最新の人工知能技術、いわゆるニューラル TTS を使用しています。私たちは自分の声の録音を使用し、私のように聞こえる私自身の個人的な音声署名を作成します。日本語からフランス語、ポルトガル語まで話せます。今、この技術は私たちが働き、遊び、生活する方法に関して、世界中の国境や障壁を取り除くことができると想像してみてください。まさに SF が現実になるところです。
So that is what we are hoping to, and I'll quickly wrap up now, just to finish, to say, going ahead, just to get my slide on again. Just bear with me 1 second, please. Okay, so so it's never too late and never give up. Okay, life and living is about struggles. In conclusion, I would say we note that education, culture, and technology, with particular reference to e-learning, have impacted society in various ways. Now, individuals and organizations, knowledge and skills are engaging and interacting with others are crucial for progress in any community. Also, the drive for sustainable development by people and society can be achieved if education, culture, and technology are correctly engineered, correctly crafted, understood, and applied to improve life and community. Now, e-learning has been shown to be a solution waiting for the problems, even in times of emergencies, such as the current COVID. However, digital divide is an area that needs to be carefully looked into. So going forward, I will say, decolonizing the curriculum to some may be inspiring or irritating. To many, It brings about the difficult issue of racism and the fragility associated with perception of human as either white or black. Let us not forget that there is only but one single human race. As academics and for everyone in education, we must at all times question what we know and how we know what we know. Conversely, we must also question what we do not know and why we do not know what we do not know. Now, this requires radical change, cut the branch, decolonize the curriculum. In particular, it requires academia to face up to and confront the discomfort of selected class privilege, to radically rethink what constitutes knowledge. Getting more African scholars into academia and working with them is critical. Finally, working together as one, we can aspire to inspire. We can successfully work to achieve decolonized curriculum that is inclusive, that will lead to the provision of useful education for one and for all. Thank you for your patience. I'm sorry I ran over time, but thank you. And any question I'm happy to take now.
Thank you very much, James. That was certainly a challenging presentation. I think there's a lot of things there that we'll all be going away and spending a lot of time thinking about. I have to say, I personally very much enjoyed it. I think, to be honest with you, James, I think we've run a bit short of time to take any questions now. What I suggest the delegates might like to do, if you have a question for James, if you go into the chat and send it direct to James, I'm sure he'll respond. But we better get set up now for our next three presentations. Margaret, do you want to organise people for the next three?
Okay, thank you very much. And thank you very much, James. That was great.